working in Switzerland as a nurse? Are you a qualified registered nurse and you're thinking about working in Switzerland? Maybe this video is for you. Now, this video is a complete guide, whether you're from Europe, Africa, Asia, America, or wherever you are from in the world. I will walk you through some of the steps that you need to take before coming to Switzerland to work as a nurse. And these steps include qualifications, language requirements, registration requirements, work permits, and salaries, including other things that I'm gonna address in this video. Now, you're very welcome to my channel. My name is Rhee, the Explorer. I'm an African nurse working in Switzerland and currently studying for a PhD in Switzerland. On my channel, I make videos giving you insights into my life in Switzerland as a PhD student, but also in my other aspects of life in Switzerland. Also in Kenya, whenever I have a chance to be in Kenya, I show you some videos in my life in Kenya. So you're very welcome, and please stick around until the end for tips and tricks about how to get to work in Switzerland as an international nurse from anywhere in the world. Please welcome. Grab a coffee or a cup of tea and stay until the end. Now let's dive right in. I just want to say that Switzerland offers some of the best salaries and working conditions in the world. From my exchanges with other nurses from other parts of the world, like from the UK or in the US, nurses in the UK do admire so much the conditions of nurses or working as a nurse in Switzerland. In the US, I think that's a totally different system. It's nothing to compare to the Swiss system, but if I can just put the Swiss nursing system in perspective of other European countries, I think it's one of the best in that context. And now I would like to, first of all, start by why work as a nurse in Switzerland. I'm just referring to my notes. I have written some titles here. So why work as a nurse in Switzerland? First of all, as I said, Switzerland is the best place in the world. Actually, it's one of the best places, because I don't know about the US system. I wouldn't say Switzerland is the best, but from the other systems I know, Switzerland is one of the best places in the world to work as a nurse. First of all, because of the salaries. You know, people want to know about salaries, nursing salaries. You know, in nursing, if you're a nurse, you know that nurses are so many different categories. So mainly, I'm talking about registered nurses and above. So if you're a registered nurse, US equivalent of a registered nurse, or African equivalent, or Asian equivalent, or European equivalent of a registered nurse, you will earn something up to like 7,500 Swiss francs per month. And if you have a master's degree if you have a master's degree and above, of course, you will earn much more than that. And I know what I'm talking about because I have friends who have master's degrees and they are working as nurses in hospitals, and I know a bit like how much they earn. It's really a lot of cash, I have to say. And you will not only earn so much, but you will really, your tasks are really advanced. Like you will work like a clinical nurse specialist, or a how to say, Advanced practice nurse, you will work like a clinical nurse specialist or an advanced practice nurse. And in that capacity, to work in that capacity of a clinical nurse or advanced practice nurse, you need to have a master's level training in nursing, and that earns you a lot of money. But if you're a registered nurse with a diploma or with a bachelor's degree, then you will earn something like 7,500 Swiss francs per month. And if you have a PhD, then you work somewhere else, maybe in the research department or in a teaching institution. And so those are also, those are totally different conditions. And I must say that the salary is quite high for what I know. So that's about salary, about the working conditions and career opportunities. I will come back to that, but working conditions are like some of the best in the world. Working as a nurse in Switzerland, and of course, the healthcare standards are top notch. And now, let me come to working conditions, the excellent working conditions. We work like 8 hours and 24 minutes per day, of course with breaks in between, um, and so our work weeks are a little bit longer than some of the European countries I know. But um, another aspect of this excellent working conditions is that you can choose to work anywhere between 10% to 100%. So you don't really have to work like full weeks, 100%. You, depending on your condition or depending on your situation, you can decide to work like just 10%, that's a half a day per week, or 20%, and that's 1 day per week, or all through to 100%. Depends on your situation, depends on how you want. And in my experience, I've seen that young nurses prefer to work 100%, and then when they grow older and have family, then they reduce their work to something like 40% or 50 or 60%, depending on what you want. This flexibility is there, and this is what makes the working conditions here in Switzerland so much better and not even comparable to anywhere in the world. That's really, really special for Switzerland. And then the working environment is really, really excellent. I have to say, like, I don't know. I don't know. I've been to some other places, but you can't just compare like top-notch working environment, top-notch quality, abundant materials. So like in the hostel, when I worked in the hostel here in Switzerland, I was always surprised at how many, like everything is disposable. You use something and you use it once and throw away. And the materials are just so, so much. Like you have everything. In fact, I have to say that probably you have so much more than you need as a nurse to work. It's so much. And so, and really high quality. And all you need to do is sit back and do your job as a nurse. It's really excellent working conditions. The career opportunities and career growth is also something that I should tell you about. There are so many forms of further trainings in nursing. I haven't been to a place where I only worked and never developed myself. You often have further education or development opportunities, either to take short courses or long courses, the way you like. Where I worked before, I had every year there was a budget for my further development or for my self development, and I could say what type of course I wanted to take. And if you also want to do a specialization in nursing, for example, that's also possible. And I have to say, studying is the cheapest I have ever seen anywhere. It is very cheap because it's subsidized. Schooling, or rather, education is so much subsidized that you need to pay really negligible fees. Like when I did my master's degree here, I couldn't believe how much money I was paying. I was paying less than 1,000 Swiss francs per semester. And now that I'm doing a degree, a PhD, my semester fees are like 150 Swiss francs. Of course, there are other small costs here and there, and so I have to say that per month I pay something like 250 Swiss francs per semester to study for my PhD. And the rest of the fees is paid. I get a salary. It's not so much, but it's at least a salary. And all I want to say is that schooling, or rather training, taking any course, any form of training at a higher level, it's so cheap. There are those courses like, if like if you want to become a professional, let's say, you are already a registered nurse and you want to do some specialization within the registered nurse sphere. That can be a little bit expensive. There are courses that cost something like 8,000 Swiss francs to complete a course. But if you want to do the academics, like further education in the academics, a master's degree in nursing, a PhD in nursing, it's really, really cheap. I have to say, I would never have afforded to do all these studies if I were living in Kenya or in Africa, because education is extremely expensive there. And the healthcare system is very strong. Like, there's in Switzerland, we all have universal healthcare coverage. Like, we pay a certain amount of money to have an insurance policy, a basic insurance policy that is mandatory for everyone living in Switzerland, whether you are a citizen or not. As long as you are allowed to live in Switzerland, you are forced to have a mandatory basic insurance which allows you access to all forms of healthcare, and therefore we have a universal health coverage. And that's why I say the healthcare system is so advanced. And really, with a basic health insurance, you can access very advanced healthcare that you can hardly or that you will never access in your life if you are living outside of Switzerland. But of course, you have to pay monthly insurance premiums, but they are not so damn expensive compared to the healthcare system in my country. If I wanted to access really good healthcare, I would need to buy a very expensive private insurance, and in order to access healthcare. And as soon as I have, or as soon as one has a major disease or a life-changing situation, you easily go into a financial catastrophe because you have to spend so much money. So that's not the case here. The healthcare system is top-notch and accessible to everyone. Of course, there are poor people in Switzerland who can't afford all these things, and so I can't say that it's perfect. It's a perfect world. It's not a perfect world. And so the nursing qualifications needed. So what kind of nursing qualifications do you need to work in Switzerland? You need to have a recognized nursing diploma. I think because the nursing profession is regulated, every nursing diploma is recognized as long as you are a registered nurse and above. And um, I mean, for example, if you're from Asia or from Africa, coming here, you will need your diploma to be certified by a notary. You know, like I had my diploma certified in Kenya before I came to Switzerland, and there are so many stamps from the notary, so they will be certified by a notary in your country of origin, and when you arrive here, they will you will also need to find a notary to certify it. But it's an easy process. So of course, it costs some money, but it's easy. So you will need this certified diploma. So if you have um, an international, if you are a registered nurse, then your diploma is could be valid here in Switzerland. But then you will need at least 2 years of work experience to increase your chances of having your diploma recognized here and working here in a hospital. So if you have a specialized training, let's say in intensive care or anesthesia nursing, then your chances are really, really great. Any kind of specialization within the nursing field increases your chances of getting to work here in Switzerland so drastically. The other thing that you need, one of the requirements that is really key, is the language requirements. You know, Switzerland has 4 national languages: German, French, Italian, and Romansh. And but the 3 main languages that you may need are German, French, and Italian, depending on where in Switzerland you will be living. In fact, this is a mandatory requirement. If you have to work here, you must know one of those 3 languages: German, French, or Italian. And so I live in the German speaking area of Switzerland, and so I needed to learn German. And if you are going to, let's say, so the German speaking areas are like Bern, Zurich, Lucerne, Basel. And the French speaking parts of Switzerland are like Lausanne, Geneva, Freiburg, and then Italian speaking areas are like Ticino and the likes. And so you have to know which area of Switzerland you're gonna go to, and then get to know what kind of language is required there and learn that language. And to be recognized here as a nurse, you need level B2 of either of those languages. But if you wanna study in future, you need level C1. In fact, some hospitals nowadays ask for level C1 instead of B2. So you really need to learn the language at a very advanced level, because B2 and C1 are really advanced levels, and you need those in order to consider coming to work in Switzerland. And if you're from Europe, from Germany, for example, then this does not apply to you, because in Germany, people speak German, and so the language issue does not apply to you. And I will come back to that, because I'll come back to EU and non-EU countries, but let's address the issue of the language first. And so I also wanted to say that learning, for example, German or even French and Italian, none of those things is easy. I learned German, intensive German from A0 to C1, but I tell you, I went through all that without really knowing how to speak. And so my trick or my tip to you would be, learn slowly. Don't go so fast. Like intensive German language is really hard, and it's not a language in my opinion, it's not a language you can learn really intensively and go to work if it's the first time you're getting exposed to it. For me, when I came to Switzerland, it will be the first time I was getting exposed to the German language, and so it was really a bold step that I did. Intensive course, 0 to C1, but I can't advise anyone. If you have been exposed to this language, you can do intensive studies, but if you have not been exposed to this language before, do it slowly, stepwise, in order to be able to learn the grammar, to learn how to write, and how to speak, because it's so important as a nurse to be able to know all these aspects of a language, because you do not only speak, you need to understand and you need to write. Documentation in nursing is key. And so that's my advice. Learn it slowly. Start preparations early if you think you would be coming to Switzerland, and do your do your language slowly or stepwise. And there are those institutions where, if you're, let's say you are in Africa, or you're in Asia, or you're in America, you can go to Goethe Institute to do the German language exams, or to Delft to do the French, and to Teli to do the Italian. If you want, I can put all these names in the description. Please just write me a comment if you want all these details to be placed in the description of the video. I can do that for you. And so remember, start preparations earlier, because learning the language is no joke. It'll cost you money, and it'll cost you a lot of time. And it's really, really important to be able to communicate, because if you work with patients and people and people's health, you really need to be good at a language. Now, let's talk about recognizing your foreign diplomas. It's a very important step to get your diploma recognized, and the recognizing agency here in Switzerland, it's the Swiss Red Cross. It's the one that recognizes all nursing diplomas, regardless of where you're coming from, regardless of whether you are from Europe or Africa or Asia. You will have to submit your documents to the Swiss Red Cross for certification or for recognition. This process takes about 3 to 6 months, but it could take up to 1 year. So, for example, in my case, it took almost a year, or just about a year, because I called, I kept calling to ask them, hey, what's happening? I've been waiting. And they said, oh, it was very difficult for them to get all the necessary information regarding my diploma, because of course I had a Kenyan diploma, and in Switzerland, of course, they have no idea what all these African diplomas can offer. And so they needed to cross-check and ask and request for information here and there, just between them and the Nursing Council in Kenya. And it took really up to about a year. And lucky enough, I got recognized, my diplomas got recognized. In Kenya, we are trained as nurse midwives, but they told me they couldn't recognize my midwifery part of my training. They recognized my training only as a registered nurse. I was happy that at least they recognized my diploma as a registered nurse, and I was allowed to work in Switzerland as a registered nurse, just like Swiss registered nurses. And for this, I will forever be grateful, because I have seen other people who were dentists from Asia or from other countries, and they come here in Switzerland and they work in a restaurant because their diplomas cannot be recognized. And thanks to the nursing profession, I guess, or to the Kenyan system, my diploma was recognized and I was allowed to work as a nurse here. And And so the recognition process can take up to a year. You just have to be aware of that. Um, and so, um, and the recognition process is really not so, it's not so, like you can't be 100% that you will get recognized in the equivalent of your recognition in your own country. Because I've heard stories, some people, some nurses came here and their diplomas were graded much lower than what they were in their countries. So just be aware that that can happen. In my case, it didn't happen, so it means that Kenyan diplomas are well recognized here in Switzerland. But if you were from an EU country or in Europe, because Switzerland has different types of agreements with the European countries, your diplomas will not be. Sorry, you will have to submit your documents to the Swiss Red Cross, just like diplomas from Africa, but I think they know the process might be a little bit faster because they know the kind of education you have you have acquired, and they have certain agreements with your countries, and so the process might be more easy because they have the knowledge about the education system in Europe. But there are other requirements which you don't need if you are from a European country or from the EU countries. You will not need things like work visa or something like that. But I've also seen people from some East European countries like Albania or Bosnia. They were nurses in their country, and when they came here, they were only given a lower recognition. So it's always important to check with people who are already here on the ground to see like what it might look like for you, or even write the Swiss Red Cross or call them and inquire about your situation. They always take phone calls and they give information. Don't be surprised when you come here. I think it's good to check all those things before you arrive. And so what you will need to submit to the Swiss Red Cross for certification or for recognition of your diplomas are, of course, your certified diploma. So if you're coming from Africa, make sure a notary in Africa has certified your diplomas. Everything, every official document that you have related to your nursing diploma, let it be certified, stamped before you come here, because you will do that process once again here once you arrive. And then you will need, of course, proof of work experience, and never forget transcripts of your education, like showing what you really did in your course and your scores. That has to be also certified and stamped. Your work experience and proof, you have to have all the work certificates from everywhere you have worked, signed and also certified. So you need to collect all those things and bring them to the notary. Let the notary certify everything. And if you have done your language skills, for example, if you have learned German language in Kenya at the Goethe Institute, you have to let somebody certify that certificate in Kenya to show that it's an official certificate before coming here with it. And the fees for processing your recognition of your diploma takes somewhere between 500 Swiss francs to 1,600 Swiss francs, something like that. I don't know on what they base, but it's always good to check on the Swiss Red Cross website to know exactly how much fees apply to your particular situation. And also just check on the website for the requirements. If you need all these websites or all these informations, please get to the comment section of this video. Let me know if you need that, and I will post this information there as well. Now let's see the work permit and visa. Let's say you are from EU or EFTA countries. So these are really countries where Switzerland has an agreement with. Things are much easier for you because of those small agreements that Switzerland has with your countries. But if you're from outside of EU, for example, you're from Africa or from Asia, or from the US, in fact, your employer will need to sponsor your work visa. Usually, you require L visa or L permit or B residence permit. And so let's say you want to come here as a nurse from Kenya or from Philippines. If you do not know anybody here, you will need to find an employer already while you are in your country. And once you have all the agreement with the employer will then write letters to your embassy and to the embassies, Swiss embassies in your country to show that they are really inviting you here and they have a job for you. But that can only happen if you have met all the requirements, like your certificates can be certified, like you have the language requirements, and then you find the employer and show the employer that you have all these requirements at hand. Then they will organize to like invite you here and organize to process for you a work visa, which you get before you arrive here. And that visa could look like anything like L visa or work permit, or B residence permit. And if you have residence permit B, this is really a good one because you can always renew it on yearly basis. I have no experience about L, the short-term one, because I never had that. I always had B, and that I used to like renew it every year, and the renewal process is so transparent, hassle-free. In fact, you get an invitation or a letter asking you to go to some office, take some biometrics, and then you get your thing, and you have to pay something like 100 francs each for each renewal. Now, talking about employers need to assist you get your work permit. Employers could be found online. For example, there are many hiring agencies. In Switzerland, I see like there are like headhunters, like hunting headhunters, or some healthcare companies like Hirslanden. In fact, Hirslanden is also in Africa. You know, it's a South African company, and I think it has a lot of branches in Africa, also in Kenya, in Nairobi, but the main one is in South Africa. So Hirslanden company. Actually, I worked for some cantonal hospitals, but I also worked for Hirslanden company, and I know that it's a very reputable international healthcare company where you can also apply online, and once you have met all the requirements, you are able to work for them. And so here's London. If you also want this, please write me a comment, and I will write all these details in the video description, or I can get back to you through your email. Now, I want to tell you my honest opinion to those of you, to those nurses outside of the EU, is that it's better to come to Switzerland on a student visa. And while you study, you look around for jobs. And employers would even be eager to sponsor your work visa if you are already here in Switzerland and if they know that you partly got your training in Switzerland. And this, I mean, I am really honest about this because it's so hard for a non EU person to come to Switzerland, mainly because of language restrictions, but also there are so many nurses from EU, from all over Europe, coming to Switzerland. In fact, there are fewer Swiss nurses than migrant nurses from all over, from Germany, from Bosnia, from Albania, from Spain, from France, from all over. So it's so much easier for Switzerland to take nurses from around Europe than to take nurses from Africa, for example. But I'm not saying that it's impossible. It's possible if you manage to find an employer online, let's say Hirslanden. Um, this is a reputable international company, and you can as well find a chance there. Or if you have really higher education and you want to work in the international companies, Hirslanden is international, but also there are other pharmaceutical companies like Roche and all those, Pfizer. They are international companies, and you can be hired really online and internationally. And if you are also a university professor, you can apply online and they will hire you. And then the conditions are different. Sometimes you will just need English, and if you know English, you get to you are sorted if you know English. But those are really high level jobs that you can do with English even without any German language. But if you are a registered nurse and a junior nurse, let's say you do not have a master's degree, you do not have a PhD, I would honestly ask you to find a course. There are many courses, in fact, some courses that have scholarships, for example, at Swiss TPH in Basel, Swiss Tropical and TPH, Swiss Tropical and health something something. So Swiss TPH, I can write the description in the comments. You can apply there and come to Switzerland for like 3 months and take a course which is really useful for you as a healthcare person. But then during that time, you can really try to learn the language or even contact potential employers, see whether this context can be for you. And if you're lucky enough, you can hook up with the employers, get a job, and then stay in Switzerland as long as you work. Then you are really taking the legal way to stay in Switzerland. For me, I would advise you like that. Even me, I came here first to study. I went to the Swiss TPH in Basel to study, and then I go to know a bit how it is like to work here as a nurse. And then when I came back here, I had some connections. I had some friends already. I knew the system, and it was not so difficult for me to get my way around. So this I would really advise if you're not from EU countries. There are also options to work in private households. Like there are many people who look for private nurses, and this can also be an option. And so please look online, and if you want support with information like this, contact me, write me a comment, and I will get back to you to have a look at that. Now let's see how to do a job application and finding a job. Now, Switzerland is so special in many ways. There is even a Swiss style CV. I didn't know about that, but there is a Swiss style way of writing a CV. And with this, I can help you personally because I've done that and I have samples. If you need that, drop me a comment in the comment section and just write Swiss CV and I'll get back to you, or I will give you a sample of a Swiss CV to be able to write like that. But then remember, you will have to translate your CV in German or in French or in Italian, depending on where in Switzerland you would like to work. Also, make sure to apply on job portals like Hirslanden or Swiss Careers, or just spontaneously go to a hospital website and apply there. You know, there's a global shortage of nurses everywhere, and there's a lot of nurse mobility everywhere. You know, people may say it's brain drain, but everywhere, even in Europe, nurses are mobile. Nurses are moving from Germany to Switzerland, Switzerland to the US, or from Romania to Switzerland, and they are moving everywhere. So nursing is international, and it's okay if you can move. If you're not happy in one place, you have the right to move to go wherever you want to go. And anyway, in Africa, a lot of nurses are trained, really highly trained. They have no jobs, so it's okay to move around. And if you're lucky to find a job, why not? Why not? It's better than staying with your certificates rusting somewhere in the cupboard instead of making use of them where you are needed. And so check online, apply on specific job portals and hospital websites. But when you come here, especially if you're from Africa, your employers and colleagues will want you to prove yourself. This is something that I'm really happy to address. You may go through all those processes and of certification. You may be really a very highly trained ICU nurse, for example. But when you come here and you have the right to work here as a nurse, you will face some challenges from employers, but also from your work colleagues, fellow nurses. There's something like implicit racism, I may say, because very often, for example, in my case, I was very often told, now you will need to prove yourself. You will need to prove yourself that you are a registered nurse. Oh my gosh. And then I look at myself, I'm the only black person there. I'm the only person from Africa. And you ask me to prove myself. Yes, I understand that I look different, and so, but I didn't really know the Swiss Red Cross has given me the right to work in Switzerland as a nurse, as a registered nurse, just like Swiss nurses. And why should I need to prove myself otherwise? And then you will be scrutinized, like at a certain workplace. I needed to like write in every hour. I needed to write all the activities that I did, like justifying every hour of my time. Yet my colleagues did not have to do that. And I asked them, hey, but why do I have to do that? And they said, you know, we are different. And then so it was always like we and you, even though we were at par in training, at par in job position, I needed to do much more. And some of my colleagues were really not comfortable that someone like me, I was really either very highly qualified, much more than them, or at par with them. And so just be sure, just be prepared that this might not be taken very well by certain people. It's not everyone who is like that, but there are just people who are intolerant, people who practice implicit racism, and you might experience all those things. My strategy was always to, I know my rights. I knew I had the qualifications. I knew I was good at my game. And so knowing your rights is something important because you can stand your ground and say, hey, these are my rights. I deserve to do this. I and I used to like, no, I can't justify every hour if my colleagues cannot do that. Um, and I have the right to do all these things as long as you're doing the right thing. And sometimes they may even want you to take a lower position than you were training. In my case, I was also asked, so I am a registered nurse, but I was asked to work in a lower position than registered nurse, something called FAGE. And so I always said, come on, I don't know that profession. I'm a registered nurse. I know this profession. I trained in this profession. I cannot take any other lower position because I don't know that. And be ready to quit if they cannot respect your rights. I quit several times. At the moment, I'm happy where I am, but I quit a few times because I did not want to prove myself and I did not want to take lower positions than what I am qualified for. So be ready that these challenges exist and you may face these challenges from your colleagues, fellow nurses, but also from your employer. So know your rights, stand your ground, and be ready to quit if you cannot take it. Now let's talk about salaries and benefits. I spoke about it at the beginning. Really, the salaries are high. It's not something that you even need to negotiate. It's they are regulated and they're quite high. And then you have benefits such as pension plans. When you retire, you have your pension already taken care of. Of course, it also depends how much you will have in retirement. Depends on how much you contribute to the pension funds. You have paid vacations of between 4 to 6 weeks, depending on your age. And then because working time is regulated, any overtime is paid. And overtime is generally not encouraged because here work-life balance is really valued. But in case you do overtime, it will be paid in full. The living costs are very high, especially rent, food, and transport. Oh my gosh, you'll pay a lot of money. You earn a lot of money, but you spend quite a lot. And so you have to be careful. And I just want to also mention the best cities, like the best cities you can go to work in my view. And also, this is also my experience of being here quite long and having been exposed to the nursing scene. I would say Zurich, Geneva, Basel, and Bern. These are really the best places to work. Zurich, Geneva, Basel, and Bern. I don't know about the French. So Geneva is in the French part. I don't know about the Italian part so well, so I wouldn't talk about that. Another thing, if you come to work here as a nurse and live here as a nurse, life is really, really expensive, but really good. And there's a lot of equality, like the society is really equal, whether you're a nurse or Swiss government president or Swiss parliament president, or you were a politician. You may go to the same supermarkets, you will ride the same type of bicycles, you carry the same type of bags. So life is really, really equal. It's not like in Kenya, for example, the super rich hide somewhere, drive a certain type of cars, go to certain types of restaurants. It's not like that. Here, you can meet the president of the Swiss parliament in the Migros supermarket, for example, or at a bicycle garage, for example. They're just normal people. There's equality, but as I said, there are also super rich people here, but also super poor people as well. But it's the society is generally equal. Um, so now, with all this information, I want to urge you to start your journey to coming to Switzerland to work as a nurse, and do your preparations early. Do not forget, do not underestimate the value of language skills and how difficult language learning German language can be. I don't know about French. I've never learned French, so I cannot speak for that. But the German language is really difficult. You have to prepare early and really learn it well. Get your papers together, get them recognized and signed and certified in your country before coming here. And so lastly, if you really like this video, I would really request you to like the video, subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell so that you don't miss out any of my videos. And please do write something in the comments if you need me to expound on something I talked about briefly. Write a comment in the video, and do share your experience of nursing in Switzerland, or if you're preparing to come to Switzerland, drop me a comment or an email, and let's get in contact. I thank you so much for your time, for listening to me, and I wish you a very good day today. Bye bye. Thank you so much.